right, here now, Tom Rogan, Washington Examiner commentary writer, born and raised in England, and watches all of this very closely. I mean, where to begin, Tom? There is a lot that is at work here. Those are very strong comments from President Trump as he walked into that beautiful dinner, basically saying, you need to leave the EU and completely detach yourself from it, or we're not going to do a trade deal with you.
I think the ultimate question is here, Martha, what happens tomorrow in the press conference when the President and the Prime Minister, after their meeting at the British equivalent of Camp David, have a discussion with the press, and whether that comes up in the line of argument, whether they can thread the needle in terms of saying soft Brexit, in terms of saying hard Brexit, but really President Trump being able to say to Theresa May, I support your strategy, but here are my concerns about the European Union. Because if they can thread that needle, this might actually oddly help Theresa May in the sense that it will push Jean-Claude Juncker, who's really the lead on the European Union side, to say, hey, if the Americans are ganging up on the British, we're ganging up on the British, and the Americans are ganging up on us, maybe we'll throw a bone to Theresa May. So oddly, as Jeremy Hunt says in that interview with you earlier, there is a sort of final, movement here to that crunch point where actually what happens in one moment might only be the secondary step to what happens in the next moment.
It was very clear to me today, Tom, speaking with the new Foreign Secretary. I also spoke with some other government officials off camera today, and listening to Theresa May, they are trying really hard to say, we're so glad you're here, Mr. President. We're so glad that you're showing all of this leadership in NATO. They understand that without his support, they could lose those 17 million voters who wanted a real Brexit to essentially drain the swamp as they see it here, the swamp being the bureaucracy that comes across the English Channel from Europe.
Right. Well, they do, but at the same time, they know as well that they must retain a trading relationship with the European Union. I think that's Theresa May's position, at least. Boris Johnson has a slightly different view. And the question is, does the president yield to that? I strongly suspect tomorrow, that President Trump will take a slightly nicer edge line in terms of making that argument. And ultimately, Theresa May say, look, we just need concessions from the EU. President Trump will say, yes, you do.
But they put out the white paper today explaining what their plan is to the EU. This is Theresa May's plan saying, here's what Brexit looks like. Here's what we think is the best deal for the British people. Is she going to have to strengthen that white paper or rework it to satisfy what the president is asking for here? I know that sounds strange that she would have to do that for him, but this is a very big deal, whether or not he's threatening to pull out of a trade deal with the UK.
I think she was going to have to do that anyway because of conservative backbenchers beyond Boris Johnson. And that President Trump actually, again, this might help her, as odd as that sounds.
It's going to be really, you're so right. The tenor of that news conference tomorrow, which we'll be covering tomorrow morning, is going to be really important. Tom, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be talking to you later.